The fear of being alone. That is what they suffer from. As a result, they fail to find themselves. Human beings are social by nature and ill-equipped to withstand extreme forms of isolation. If we remain alone for too long, our mental faculties can deteriorate, leading to states of madness and deep despair. The use of solitary confinement and exile are practices with ancient roots, indicating that the deep fear of isolation has run through our veins since time immemorial. But in modern times, our fears are not limited to extreme forms of solitude. Many of us fear being alone for extended periods. In this video, we will explore this fear, explain the harmful effects it can have on interpersonal relationships, and examine the benefits of overcoming this fear and learning to find comfort in solitude. Many thinkers have suggested that the fear of solitude is, at its root, the fear of oneself. In our daily routines, busy with work and household chores, and often in the company of others, our social personality emerges, and disturbing thoughts and emotions are pushed out of our awareness. But when we are cut off from close contact with others, those darker aspects of ourselves tend to surface and make themselves known. It is what grows in solitude, wrote Nietzsche, including the inner beast. Therefore, there is a danger in spending too much time isolated from others. There will come a moment when, overwhelmed by the inner beast, solitude will crush us and become a great curse. Some can endure this crisis of solitude and, through a heroic effort, tame and integrate that inner darkness. But most will be destroyed by such a confrontation. Which is why Nietzsche believed many should be discouraged from solitude. The standard response for those whose loneliness becomes too heavy is to cling to others to ensure they never feel alone. One man goes to his neighbor because he seeks himself, and another because he wants to lose himself. His self-loathing turns solitude into a prison. Those who lose themselves in others must be saved from their own solitude, but they always end up becoming mutilated versions of the people they could have been. To realize our potential, we must fulfill what psychologist Abraham Maslow called our needs for self-transcendence, or higher needs, which include the drive toward truth, beauty, and goodness. These needs, as Ernest Becker observed in The Denial of Death, cannot be fully met through other people. You cannot get blood from a stone, he wrote, nor spirituality from a physical being. Any attempt to fully satisfy our higher needs through intimate relationships will lead to a divine idealization of the partner and a dependency that feeds on them for our self-esteem and identity. If the partner becomes God, they can easily turn into the devil, Becker wrote. The logic is not far off. If you find ideal love and make it the sole judge of good and evil within you, the more you depend on it, the more you become just a reflection of another person. You lose yourself in the other, just like obedient children lose themselves in the family. No wonder dependency, whether on a god or a partner, brings with it deep and latent resentment. To ensure that, unlike many today, we do not fall victim to relationships based on dependency, we must develop what 20th century psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott called the capacity to be alone. When the fear of solitude leads us to depend on others, that is, on the false self, we become overly compliant out of fear of abandonment, and thus construct what Winnicott called the false self. In other words, our personality becomes merely a reflection of what we believe others want us to be. It is by developing the capacity to be alone that the false self can be broken, Winnicott believed, allowing us to rediscover ourselves. our true feelings and needs. In modern times, most have forgotten the benefits of solitude. Instead, many unconsciously adhere to what is known as object relations theory, which is based on two key assumptions: that personality development can only be facilitated through personal relationships, and that such relationships are the primary, if not sole, source of meaning in life. In his influential work, Attachment and Loss, John Bowlby, a supporter of this view, wrote that intimate bonds with other human beings are the hub around which a person's life revolves, not only when we are infants or children, but also during adolescence, adulthood, and even old age. Taken to the extreme, the assumptions raised by object relations theorists imply that individual lives have no meaning apart from interpersonal relationships, neglecting the well-known fact that meaning can also be found in personal growth, fostered by cultivating in solitude, a relationship with a form of creative work that captures our attention. As psychiatrist Antonis Thor argued in his book Solitude, A Return to the Self, it is in the effort to shape and bring order to an external creative activity that we often, unknowingly, impose order and structure on our minds as well. Maturation and integration can occur within the isolated individual to a greater degree than previously thought. Introverted inventors are capable of defining their identity and achieving self-actualization through self-reference. That is, by interacting with their own work rather than with other people. This capacity for self-actualization through a relationship with one's work led Russian writer Fyodor Dostoevsky to declare that solitude of the mind is as essential as food for the body. In solitude, we can forge our character, away from the constant need for external approval and preserving our independence in the relationships we cultivate. Ensuring that, unlike many today, we do not lose our identity in them. However, while learning to thrive in solitude, we cannot ignore the dangers Nietzsche spoke of. Dangers that led Goethe to write, "There is nothing more dangerous than solitude." Yet we can increase our ability to face those dangers if we consider that the benefits of solitude are found precisely within its dangers. Meaning that only by voluntarily seeking solitude and confronting the inner darkness can we reap its benefits and perhaps, in the end, achieve the rare self-confidence of those who have gained sovereignty over themselves. As poet Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, "One must not let oneself be confused in solitude by the fact that something within wants to emerge. We know little, but we must trust that what is difficult is a certainty that will never abandon us. It is beautiful to be solitary because solitude is difficult. If something is difficult, that must be all the more reason to do it."